Hey team, Danny Hirani here. Looking forward to a few minutes here of super high quality content with two of my favorite people on the earth. So everyone, this is, as we discussed last Tuesday, I think a lot of you were on the call that Mark Robertson, Ryan Grant, Josh Metal, and myself really shared some ideas of how to go from frantic to focused in these really unprecedented times. And, as a follow-up to that call, I was asked to kind of, work together with some of that team, right? Mark Robertson in particular, and really carry forward some of the energy that came out of the, what is the number one thing that has impacted your career conversation. And every single person on that call last Tuesday mentioned that coaching was the number one impact that they made on their business. And so Mark Robertson, who's going to be joining us today, has actually invited his coach, Tim Braheem, who, full disclosure, happens to be my coach as well, to just jump on another quick call for us to discuss a continuation of some of the ideas that can allow you to go from being frantic to focused. So let's bring Mark and Tim on.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Come on, guys.
Mark and Tim, welcome. So, this will be just a very casual conversation. The three of us have had, the good fortune of being able to mastermind together a ton through Tim's Leadership 360 program that we are all part of. And so what I'm hoping to do today is just have this be a very organic conversation where we can hit on a couple of tactical topics. So everyone that's watching, in the pre-call here, and we're trying to determine the best items to really hit on in order to really share with you ways to continue the concept of going from frantic to focused. We came up with a handful of topics. One is a tactic to really script out your both, mindset and approach to rate shoppers, where, you're at max capacity for your pipeline. What do you do now when you have somebody that comes to you saying that they're just looking for interest rate? So Mark and Tim are going to help us a little bit with that. Then we're going to move in of these times, right? How do you keep yourself energetic? How do you keep yourself positive? And then we're going to finally move to a very specific tactic of how you can create bandwidth. So just to give you a quick agenda of what we're going to be talking about today, but I can't be more excited to have Mark and Tim here. Mark is one of the top 100 originators in the country, and Tim, prior to starting an extraordinary coaching company, himself was a billion-dollar producer, one of the legends in the industry. So he's walked the walk, and he definitely talks the talk. So I'm extremely looking forward to this conversation. So how's it going, Mark and Tim?
Good. We're not going to fault you, Tim, for wearing that LA Dodgers hat to this call. I know that you're doing it just to taunt me, but that's okay, dude. I still love you.
22-8, Mark. Those are the numbers for you to digest. 22-8.
I knew it was coming, man. Yeah, I got a haircut for this, man. I'm excited to have you on, man. Thanks, Tim, for your time and for joining us. We feel super lucky to have you all the time, but it's really cool to get some exposure to some of the folks that we mastermind with outside of the L360 crew. So thanks for coming on, man.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure, and I'm excited about what you guys are up to. And you guys are a gift to the mortgage industry. There's just such an abundance of talent and wisdom that you guys have, and I'm just here to play color commentator and fill in the gaps if there are any. But you guys are the ones that are fighting the fight right now in the trenches on a daily basis. I remember what it's like, although I don't know it was quite this intense. I think it's the most intense time. But coaching 40 some odd top producers right now, I'm acutely aware of how frantic and chaotic it could be for you and your team. So why don't you guys just run with it, and let's see where this thing evolves into.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, let's just launch right into it, Mark. So, I mean, you're talking to dozens of people every day. You have an extremely large pipeline right now. So just tell us about the challenges that you're facing and how you're overcoming them.
Yeah. So, first I just want to admit that I'm not always overcoming them. It feels like a kind of an orchestrated chaos. I feel like I'm lucky enough to be alive and have a great team and know what I'm doing in the mortgage industry at a time. That's probably one of the best opportunities. But as we were masterminding, the four of us, I asked kind of organically, hey guys, what do you feel when someone calls and says, hey, I'm shopping rate? And that is a pretty common question that we all get. It seems pretty benign, but what I'm aware of with myself is when someone says, hey, I'm just checking around for rate, I immediately check out and I go on to the next, because what I really want are clients that are dedicated to me and to the process and to my team, because I don't want to allocate resources, especially my team right now. You know, our processors, our underwriters, our production assistants, everyone is working around the clock. The last thing that I want is to put a loan in with someone that's, you know, that's on the fence. And to be honest, I don't know how you guys feel and the people that you're talking to feel, but it actually feels kind of nice to be in such high demand, because it, you know, there were times where all of us were just fighting for every single deal, you know, and to get into the pipeline. And so, you know, the script that I'm using is some, you know, some sort of, hey, Tim, look, I really appreciate that you're shopping rate. And I think rate is really important, but no one cares about you the way that I do. And you learn that on the purchase if they're a purchase client of mine. And, you know, I just want to be honest with you about what's going on in the industry right now. The industry is completely taxed. They're at complete capacity. And, you know, assuming you've got great credit and great rates, you know, I'm going to get you in the high twos on this 30-year fixed, which is absolutely unbelievable. The lowest rate I've ever locked of all time. And having said that, I have to be really respectful of this team that's working around the clock. So unless you're definitely going with us, you know, I don't want to go down any of Discovery Road. I don't want you to send any documents. I don't want you to do anything unless you're completely committed to me. And I'll go further and say, look, I think you're doing yourself a great disservice if you're going to go out there and just try to find a slightly lower rate than that, because if anything happens and the wheels come off, you're just a number to anybody else. And to us, we care about you. We care about your future. And I'd really like to take care of you. Are you on board with that? And 99.9% of the time, and the script doesn't always go like that. You know, people are on board and we move forward. And I've had zero issues with rate. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 out of 100 where, you know, I lose the deal because somebody's got a better interest rate than me, which was not anywhere close to the batting average that we normally have. So, Tim, what do you think about that script? Are there any tweaks that you'd make it? You are the script master. And Danny, can you weigh in as well?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Tim. I mean, this is literally his genius zone is scripting. So, and I know this is an important topic for a lot of people right now.
I think that, first of all, I think it sounded fantastic, Mark. So let me just compliment you on a really well thought through script. And what I'd actually rather do, rather than try to regurgitate something else that would be quite similar, frankly. I mean, I think that what you said is kind of hits all of the key points. What I'd rather do is break that script down and pull some needles out of the haystack for those that just heard it, because I think that there are some principles associated with selling and relationship development that were adhered to there that are really important. So number one is teach. So Mark taught the consumer, in this case me, what is happening right now in the industry. And I think that's vitally important, that you make sure that you take the time to educate the consumer as to the loan volume, how long it's taking for loans to get done. Because if you don't do that, you're setting yourself and your team up to overpromise and underdeliver. So really establishing, look, this is unprecedented times. I know that you know that because it's all over the news as to how low rates are. I love the fact that he said, I've never locked anybody in the twos before, because that creates excitement. And notice the excitement in his voice, you know, the enthusiasm behind how great rates are right now. And what's transpired is that we have a significant amount of volume. Our team, my team, maybe I would insert something like this, Mark, like my primary obligation is to protect the sanctity of my team's time and their energy, because believe me, and I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for them, because there are a lot of people that are unemployed right now, but these are people that are working around the clock. Like it's long days. So it's really important for me to set the proper expectation. Okay. And in fact, intentionally set up an under promise and over deliver. If it's taking you 45, 50 days to get a loan done right now, tell them it's going to take you 60. It's the insecure salesperson that sets up the over promise and under deliver, that comes out and says, I'll get it done for you in 40 days. And it takes 50 and the person's frustrated and disappointed. Educate them on what volume is like right now, educate them on how taxed the systems are right now, and educate them on how long it will take. And then ask for the third point. So the first is teach, the second is set proper expectations, and then the third is create a contract. Okay, and I think that this is a vital piece. So something along the lines of, if we are to move forward and work together, and I am to lock in your interest rate, I want to make sure that we're clear on what that means. A lock is a contract that we're making with the lender. If we are locked in for 60 days at this rate and rates go up, they're not going to call us up and say, hey, you remember that rate you locked in for Tim back 40 days ago? Well, we don't really want to deliver it anymore. And conversely, we have to adhere to this rate. So my reputation is incredibly important to me, as you can imagine. So I just need to know that if we're going to move forward together and we agree to lock this loan today, and I get you the 2 3/4 that's available, that, as long as you get approved, we're going to close that loan, because I can't have blocks being blown off, contracts being blown off. It'll permanently damage my business. So I think that sharing all of those things is really important. And I love the fact, Mark, that you're willing to pass on a deal. And I think that that's really important, even for those of you that are sitting there going, well, but I'm not doing the volume Mark's doing, and I'm doing 8 loans a month, and I don't want to pass on any deal. I really want to encourage you to shift the mindset there even a little bit too. Like, you don't want to be putting uncommitted borrowers into your pipeline for your psychology and for the psychology of your team. So those are just some thoughts.
And Tim, I want to add one thing to what you just said there, because that last piece I think is critically important. But I would extend the framing of this out just slightly to say how the high quality commitment from the population of people that Mark's inviting him into his business as customers impacts the commitment of the team, right? So I think it would be fair to say to that future customer that, if you were committing to me, right, and it's because I set this expectation that we have committed borrowers coming in, that we are able to maintain our commitments to you, and we're able to reinforce those commitments every day and work tirelessly to honor everything that we promise that we're going to do. And there's actually kind of a what's in it for them to be challenged in this way, right? It's not just about Mark protecting his team or protecting his business for the team or the business, but it's protecting those people so that they can then add value back to the clients.
1,000%. And don't underestimate, just to piggyback off what Danny said, don't underestimate that the message that you send to your team every day is vital right now. And I know that you all know that, but if you put loans in your pipeline that aren't fully committed, you're in a sense saying to your team, your time is not that important to me. And it's you have to be the gatekeeper right now. You are the gatekeeper that should fiercely protect their energy and the amount of time that they're spending with quality borrowers.
I cannot wait to tap into that a little bit more, but there's one thing I wanted to point out: the sanctity of my team, their time, and sanity. I love that, man. And the one thing I wanted to ask you, Tim, is with folks that I coach, a lot of times I get the oh yeah, but you're doing X amount of volume, and inside my real truth is, well, hey, this is the way I feel like I would have behaved when I was doing a third of this volume just 6 years ago. It wasn't that long ago where I was in the same exact boat. And you hinted on that there, but you pushed back on people who may not be doing this type of volume, and said that you're challenging them as well to make that adjustment. What would you say? Because I get this back all the time, and I don't always know exactly what to say to those folks that say, hey, yeah, but you're doing X amount of volume.
It's that proverbial chicken or the egg, right? Like, what comes first? Does the volume come first with a bunch of crappy borrowers and a bunch of bumps in the road and getting beat up, and then I figure it out? Or do I make the decision to respect? So let me take one step back. Look, here's the bottom line. The greatest salespeople that exist are the ones that have the most passion and certainty in their product. In this industry, the product is you. So be very careful as to the message that you're sending to yourself about your product, you. If you are allowing yourself to engage in relationships that are not healthy, that are not functional, that are not respectful, that are grinding you, that are calling you all the time, that are, all that stuff, it doesn't matter if you're doing 6 loans a month or 60 loans a month, it's the same principle, because your energy and your experience of your own self-regard has everything to do with how confident you are in selling you. So if you're constantly engaging in relationships that make you feel poorly about yourself, you're not going to be able to sell yourself at as effective of a level. I've had so many times in my career where I passed. I do it as a coach even. There'll be times where somebody wants me to coach them, and after interviewing them, I'll be like, this doesn't feel like it'll be a healthy coaching relationship, and I will pass. The message that I'm sending myself in that moment as a coach is, I deserve a certain level of client that I'm going to enjoy working with. And the same holds true for you, whether you're doing 2 loans a month or 20 loans a month. What's the message that you're sending to yourself about your product? That's a really key question for you to ask.
And Tim, what just came up for me was I was reminded of a Jim Rohn quote that I'll paraphrase. I'll probably butcher it, but that your net worth rarely exceeds your self-worth.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Bingo.
that I think is what you're really hitting on. And I think there's a tactical layer to this too, right? So we're talking about tactical scripting, but there's a tactical element that says something that I just lost my train of thought on, but had something to do with really setting those boundaries up with your clients. I'll come back to it. But this is a great I think this is a great transition. I'm gonna kind of go back in the vault and scrounge up what I was just about to say, because I think it was really good. But I think this is a good point to transition into kind of some of that leadership mindset, right? Because Tim, you're coaching 40 of the top leaders in the mortgage space, Mark included. Mark, you have a team that you're leading, right? What are some of the things that Mark should be focused on as a leader from a mindset perspective, and what should his team be expecting of him, right? Meaning, what kind of leader do you feel like this time is really demanding? These times are really demanding to thrive.
An empathic leader, period.
And what does that look like?
Empathy, like that's especially right now. Like, so let's analyze this for a minute. They know people. One of the things that always is so funny for me is when I talk to a loan originator who doesn't think that their team knows how much money they make. They all know. They're all acutely aware of how many loans you're funding, and they know how much you make per loan. So it's a dangerous little proposition, right? With them working ridiculously long hours at home, barely getting a break from having to raise their kids as well at the same time in some cases, and you are raking in cash. So empathy is to put yourself in the shoes of another. So what would that look like if you were in their shoes? And I think that one of the things that is really important is to not assume, because it's easy, and I realize how busy everybody is, and you're probably like, where do I have time in the day to put myself in the shoes of another? Where do I have time in the day to take a step back and talk with them a little bit about what's important to them? The answer is that you kind of got to make the time if you really want to be a great leader. Because right now, it's very easy to make the assumption that everybody that you lead has the same values that you have. And they don't. We all have different values. The 4 of us on this call all have different values that are important to us. Just because maybe you, as an example, are high economic and want to make a lot of money doesn't mean that that's the most important thing to your processor or your transaction coordinator. So to lead from empathy is to first understand what is purposeful and meaningful for your teammates, and then to give them what it is that they really would find to be important. So let me give you an example. What if you sat down, what if you created an intake form? And we just had group 8 here in town from L360 over the weekend, and we were talking about this with Tony Gabrione, and he's going to implement this right away. What if you created just a quick little intake form, maybe 8 questions of things like, what's the one thing in your life right now that you miss the most since prior to the pandemic? What's the one inspiring goal that you have in your future that you haven't been able to achieve? Like these types of questions. Because what we're seeking to uncover is, what are their values? What's important to them? So what if you had a processor that had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old? And you found out that the goal they have is to send their kid to college. And what if instead of giving them a $3,000 bonus buried into their check with taxes taken out at the next pay period, which many of you are doing, what if you instead had your financial advisor call them and say, Mark Robertson, your boss asked me to give you a call. He wanted me to let you know that he's setting up a 529 plan for both of your kids and putting $3,000 in it. And he's really grateful for how hard you've been working for him. Are you going to tell me that that's going to be parallel to the impact that a $3,000 bonus is going to have? No chance. But this is empathy. This is understanding what's purposeful and important to the people on your team, and leading by taking that time to give to them. Or Jay Dacey, who's a really great loan broker in Minnesota, who was in Group 8, he found out that his processor, he knew that his processor, who's been working from home, has an unlandscaped backyard. And think about this for a minute now. She's at home. So this is empathy. She's at home every day. She looks out into that backyard and it's dirt. And she's looking at it every day, all day. And she probably doesn't have time to go to Home Depot, or her husband doesn't have time to go to Lowe's or wherever and do all that themselves. So he hired a landscaper to landscape her backyard. So when she's at work every day, she's looking at something that's aesthetically beautiful to her, and more importantly, was a gift given by her leader. And this is what I mean by empathic leadership.
Man, that is, I wrote both of those things down. Those are just insane examples that, like, I think we all, at least, me being honest, it's tough to come up with things sometimes. I really try to think and hold my people in my head, in my heart at night. And a lot of times it is that leftover time, Tim. And, maybe I need to carve out and make time and do the 8 questions thing, so that I really am seeking to understand my people first. But that would blow me away if somebody did either one of those things for me. And it just takes leadership to a whole different level, because, I feel like it's pretty easy to be a leader when things are going well. And right now things are going really well. But it's also causing a lot of hurdles, a lot of issues, and it's more stressful now, at least in my experience, being a leader and trying to help people through this. And especially if you're really, you really want what's best for those people, and you want them to succeed on the other side. You want this business to be sustainable, but you're very clear that it may not be. And setting up those chess pieces, I definitely feel more stress through the care of these people, and just trying to think about all the different personalities that I'm managing, and the stress of the production business as well. And I think that is, everybody has that same story that I just regurgitated, regardless of what their role is, right? And so it's the mindset, Tim, and you have taught us. So I'm so grateful for the experience that I had prior to this time, because now I'm getting up every morning and I'm doing my push-ups, and I'm taking cold showers, and I'm meditating, and I even journaled a couple of times, which I know you'd be really proud of me, because I'm not the best journaler. But for people that are not taking the type of care of themselves, and they don't have a high self-esteem, which you've helped restore in me, and I'm grateful. I want to acknowledge you for a minute, but I also just want to say, look, this can be taxing on the psyche. I'm seeing it in my teams. I'm seeing it in my production partners. I'm seeing it in my leaders, where it just is having this effect on them over time. What can I do? What can we do? What can one do to help these folks out who may not have the training that you've equipped Danny and myself with to be prepared for the marathon, to make this the new normal, to not so much buy into this is chaos and the burnout. And, I hear people saying these words all the time that I'm now trying to steer clear of that vocabulary. But what advice would you give the folks who are grinding it out every day and see no end in sight, Tim?
Well, so first of all, thanks for really kind words, bro. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you're, just make sure everybody knows you've done what every day you've done, well, you're up to 237 push-ups a day. I mean, you're freaking so committed. It's incredible. So, okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna take 2 steps backward, and hopefully this could be really of big help to everybody on this call. And it's always going to be of help to me, because I got to remind myself to do these things too, because I'm as much of a student as I am anything else. So our energy, whether we're happy, joyful, pissed off, afraid, shut down, those are all various forms of energy, okay, based upon how we're feeling. Our energy has everything to do with how we experience life. All you got to do is think about the times where you've been joyful, and then think about the times when you're stressed, and there's a palpable difference between the two, right? So in a time like this, energy management is maybe the single most important thing that we could be talking about. And when we tie that into being an empathic leader, and we look at, okay, what can I do to help my team members manage their energy? Because if left to our own devices, oftentimes out of our own fears of disappointing our boss or our fears of our borrowers being upset with us, we will just work ourselves to the bone, and end up being depleted, and life will be very unfulfilling, and it won't really matter how big the paycheck is. We'll just know that we're not happy, and we'll start to look somewhere else, or we'll just start to fade out because we're just not going to be out at our best. So as counterintuitive as it can be sometimes to force and or require your teammates to fill their bucket, if you will, or to raise their energy, I think that that's a role that you need to be playing as a leader, is first and foremost asking them, like, where are you energetically? Maybe checking in on a weekly basis. Where was your energy this week? Or you can even do it on a daily basis to end the day. Energy 1 through 10, where was it? Reminders. How are you starting your day? How are you ending your day? What are the things, helping them identify the things that fill them up? Because for everybody, it's different. So the guy in the pink shirt, his energy is totally shifted for very different things from Mark. Give Mark a guitar, right? And Mark's, you give Mark a guitar and Mark's energy goes off the planet. Like, I mean, he is like magic to watch, playing the guitar and singing and entertaining. It's like beautiful, man. It makes you want to cry, because the reason it makes you emotional is because you're watching somebody full and in joy. So what are the things that bring joy to your life? What are the things that bring joy to your team members' life? And how can you as a team make commitments to each other to remind each other, have you been doing that thing? Have you been going on a walk every morning? Have you been doing your meditation every morning? Have you gotten on your motorcycle and gone for a ride 3 times a week? How about sitting down as a team and talking about the difficulties of managing energy right now? What types of environments are healthy for your energy, and what types of environments are not? What are the types of activities that knowing yourself well enough that you can engage in that will raise your energy, and then making 1 or 2 commitments to each other as a team to support each other and remind each other to do those things. And a part of that may be you even mandating that they take a certain amount of time off. It may be you mandating that they take a lunch for an hour and shut their computer down, and send the team a text saying, shutting down for an hour. Applause from the rest of the team. Great job. See you in an hour. Go recharge your battery. Go get your workout in. Go play with your kids. Go dig in your garden. Whatever it is for that person. That's one of the things that's really, really important right now, is that you guys are really, as a family, as a work family, loving each other and supporting each other with empathy, and helping each other stay committed to the things that will make them their best version of themselves. So that would be just some answers.
So Tim, I think this is a great, I want to just unpack this a little bit more before we move on to the tactic that Mark brought to this call, which I think is going to be an awesome one. But I think what you just shared is spot on. However, I think that there's a lot of people that we've heard from, and a lot of the conversation from last week revolved around kind of a scarcity mindset. So I think there may have been a lot of people that heard what you just said and was like, well, Tim, that's great. And my, intention is always to nurture my team and give them energy, but I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out on a deal or miss out on some income. And maybe landscaping the yard is hard for somebody because they can't picture how, a few $1,000s is going to be returned to them. And I think that it's important to recognize that not everybody, like Mark has introduced, has really had that, that the fortune of getting some of these concepts that bring somebody into abundance versus scarcity. And also this idea, I want to unpack maybe both of these things just to reinforce the value of recovery right after a sprint, right? This is what, professional athletes and Olympic level athletes, this is how they operate. They sprint, but then they recover because they know that that's going to give them the time to be their best the next time they have an opportunity to sprint again. Whereas just constantly running full steam obviously is not the answer. That's why that's not how they operate. So can you make comments on those two ideas?
Yeah, of course. So, look, it's, first of all, and I don't mean to be so curt, but it's a choice. It's a choice. Is it more important to you to go get that extra loan, or is it more important to you that your team is healthy? I mean, it's really a choice. And so that's number one. I mean, we have free will to make that choice. And you just have to evaluate what choice you want to make and what's important to you. The second thing is that I'm acutely aware, and it's probably because I've been, I just got done reading The Obstacle is the Way, and I just got done, we're having Ryan Holiday as our guest speaker in November, and I've been really looking at Stoicism and the teachings of Ryan Holiday and Marcus Aurelius and Plato and Socrates and all these guys. And it's really interesting to me how when we just hit pause and back up for just a day. So what I'm talking about is, can you carve out an hour every other week to get out of it, go somewhere quiet, sit, and really think through some of the issues that are in front of you? So when we look at this issue of, do I make the time to connect with my team and find out what's important to them? Do I mandate some type of recharging of the battery time, etc.? It's very difficult to assess that scenario and the pros and cons of it when you're in it. Because when you're in it and you're in the grind of your day and all you know is your phone's blowing up and you've got more leads than you got to deal with and you're trying to put out fires, and I pose this to you and I say, hey, what you really need to do is take an hour out of every day and give your team a break. And you're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I need 29 hours in the day. I need 5 more than I've got. How am I going to find that time? Okay, because you're in it and you're emotionally attached to it, and you're firefighting. But when you step back from it and stoically look at it from a place of reason, because that's what we're talking about here, it's not emotion, but rational reason. And you look at the bigger picture and you say, what is sustainable? What's going to keep them with me for a long time? What's the value of having teammates for a long time? It's immensely huge. I mean, it's giant. I mean, to have somebody on your team with you for 7-8 years, it's like, it's crazy how valuable that is. So if you start looking at it from a bigger picture perspective, a longer timeline, Danny, than just like the next 90 days, I got to like fight through this. Because guess what? We were saying that 180 days ago. If I could just get through the next 90 days. And then here we are on the 270th day almost of this thing, and we don't even know what's going to end. At what point in time are we going to go, I need to pull back from it a little bit. Maybe I need to pass on a few deals. Did Josh share by any chance his script that he delivered about how he's dealing with real estate agents that provide him with a problematic deal? Has he shared that with you?
No.
Yeah, he actually he covered a brief version of it on the Tuesday call with Savage.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, for those of you that didn't hear that, go back and watch that. It's a really great script, and it's what I'm talking about. It's saying, okay, there's a bigger picture here. I might have to be scripted properly with my realtors to educate them and teach them as to why I have to pass on certain leads that they give me, because I can't afford to take on relationships right now that will have collateral damage to my team. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. I mean, one bad loan, or much less 3 or 4, is going to have permanent collateral damage. Now you're exposed to the person who gets the phone call and says, look, we want you as our processor, and we're going to give you a $25,000 signing bonus. You're leaving yourself wide open, and that's happening out there right now. I mean, Alan Taman brought it up. Somebody tried to get his processor for $100,000. I mean, like that's happening right now. People are getting seduced and recruited hard to process. If you're not taking care of your team's emotions and helping them manage their energy and showing that you care and exercising empathy, you're a sitting duck. And maybe more importantly is they won't be with you long term. So my answer is think bigger picture and get some distance from it and think about what's really sustainable.
Yeah, so you're basically saying, and just to reinforce this from the other call, think about the war, not each battle, right? You can win a lot of battles and still lose a war, because the battle for the hearts and minds of your team is a battle that if you lose it, it is a crippling blow, right? And it is
Well
very
said.
difficult to recover from a loss of that battle. So I couldn't agree more with that, Tim. And I think that one thing that has been implied through this, which I think is an important thing to net out for everybody that's listening, is that it starts with you as the leader, right? You have to get yourself right. You have to lead by example and set the tone for everyone else that is following you, right? You have to be demonstrating abundance versus scarcity, hope versus fear, right? That's going to set the tone for everybody, because it, as kind of a extrapolation of that quote, your net worth rarely exceeds your self-worth. Your team's energetic level will almost never exceed that of the leader, right? Because they're looking to you for that example, and they're looking for you to the guidance of how should I feel right now, right? You're freaked out. You're highly negative. Okay, that's how I should be reacting. Now I'm going to go and gossip and snipe with my other team members because we're all in stress, versus you setting a completely different tone about what abundance and teamwork and family and community look like. And then all of a sudden, now they're united around how they're going to get through it together, instead of, uniting against each other or dividing against each other.
One last thing I'll say, and I know you want to turn to Mark for this question, but I know that none of you signed up for this job to be a leader. Like I'm acutely aware of that. I didn't, when I first started as a loan officer, I had no idea I was going to lead a team. I had no idea. I thought I was just going to sling 5 loans a month and buy my $175,000 house in Moore Park, California, and be done with it. I mean, and then the next thing you know, I've got like all these people I'm hiring, and but here's the bottom line: you're all leaders. Okay, you're the leaders of whatever team you have, whether it be small or large, whether it be a half a processor or 5 processors that you have. And there's a reason why you're being paid really well right now, relative to the amount of hours you're working and all that kind of stuff. And it's because you're paid to make tough decisions. And a leader is the person that steps in and is willing to make difficult decisions. And sometimes those difficult decisions are to slow down volume a little bit. I'll give you a quick example. When COVID hit, I own an Italian restaurant that's like super successful. These guys have both been in it. And it was like the hottest restaurant in town. I stepped in and told my partner, I'm like, we need to close down. We weren't required to close down, but I said, I know that it's going to derail our momentum and all that kind of stuff, but we need to close down for a couple of weeks to assess this situation. What do we need to do to protect our employees? What do we need to do to make everybody feel safe? So we made the tough decision and shut down. And sometimes you got to make tough choices like that and maybe slow down your loan volume a little bit so people can get caught up. I know that it's hard to walk away from money when you finally are making a ton, but it's a long race here, gang. This is not a sprint, you want to pace yourself and make sure that you're setting yourself up for the long race. So
actually, I don't want to go off on a tangent either, and I know we want to go to a different place, but I also just want to add, while we're on this topic, that at least for me personally, I concentrate on the deal I lost, on that one deal that left me for rate, or on the one purchase I didn't get. And the more I can authentically stay in gratitude and really step back, as Tim says, and look at this opportunity for what it is, which is, it is still, and I know this sounds like a broken record because we've heard this over and over and over. When you really look at it for what it is, it's an amazing opportunity. I'm so grateful to be alive when rates are this low, and to know what I'm doing in the mortgage business, and to have a book of business that I've been putting my heart and soul into for 20 years. I feel like I'm so lucky. And I think the more we can concentrate on our victories, like RG was saying last week, Danny, the easier all of this is, because you can stay in a better mindset. It's one thing to just hear the mantra and have it be diluted, but when you can internally really look at things, take a step back, take that hour, take that weekend, go on a hike, get grounded. When you're by yourself and you have no influence anywhere, and just look at it, it really is an amazing time. And I think that makes a lot of the tough decisions, a lot of the empathic leadership that Tim was talking about, much easier when you can really get there.
That is so well said, Mark. And I actually do remember now the one tactical point I wanted to make, and then we'll move on to your strategy, Mark. And out of respect for everybody's time, we'll get through that. But something that Tim said, right? Your product is you, right? As it related to the interest rate conversation, and I think that is an extraordinarily important takeaway, right? That when you look at what it is that your clients need from you, right? They're asking you for an interest rate. And oftentimes that's what they're going to lead with. But most of the time they're leading with that because they don't know any better, right? And it's your job and responsibility to really guide them to the true answer, which is they need a strategy. They need a long-term vision of the future that they can, rally around. And they want to be led just like everyone else to the right decision. So I really believe that idea that your product is you, and reframing in your mind what it is you're selling when you sit down and across the table from a client, or hopefully eventually on the same side of the table as your client, talking about the strategy that's going to work for them, that'll help provide peace of mind for people that are watching. So Mark, just as a transition in though, let's get to that tactic that you brought, because I think, when I asked you, what's the one thing that has brought you the most peace of mind and the most bandwidth lift in your business over the last 90 days, this is what your answer was.
Yeah. I'm going to cap one thing and then we'll go into that. Another quick strategy that has helped me keep clients in the boat. I just thought about it when you were saying that, Danny, is, hey, at my company, the policy is that in 120 days, we can refi that client again. So as far as scripts go, I'm saying to that same client, Tim, if rates go further down, and I do think there's a possibility that happens, I will refi you again in 120 days. Part of what you're paying me to do is to monitor this debt for the rest of your life. And I've got my eyes on it every single day. In 120 days, we'll look at this thing again and just make sure you're in the right loan. So if you guys aren't using that line, it's the closest thing to magic, that probably I use in my everyday scripting. So, for what it's worth. Now,
can I throw out my version of that real quick, just for everybody?
It's my favorite.
If I'm doing my job correctly, my job really just begins when your first loan closes with me, because from there, it's my job to assist you in managing the largest indebtedness that you'll ever take on in your life. Most people walk away from the customer when the loan closes. We're just getting started. I will continually monitor your loan for you on an ongoing basis. And if there are opportunities to reduce the cost of your indebtedness, I will proactively reach out to you.
Tim, way to embarrass me in front of all my friends, dude. Go. Okay. So part of what, we've implemented at my branch and on my team, just to give you a lift. So if you're anything like us, everyone's looking for processors. Everyone's looking for production assistants. Of course, we want someone with experience, but very hard to find. We were finding that when we found people, a lot of times they would just renegotiate and stay where they're at. And so we came to the conclusion that we really needed to cultivate new talent if we wanted to, if we really wanted to make this business sustainable. We had to bring young, sharp, aggressive, fresh people into the industry. And so, what we've done is we've taken entry-level people and made them complete tasks that would give the rest of the team a lift. And so, one example in our branch, and we're trying to lather, rinse, repeat, but that person would come in and simply like the task of organizing loan documents. So borrower sends you a bunch of stuff, whether you're using software or not using software, it always has to be combed through. That I just offloaded to this person who immediately would just perfectly label it and put it in a central location, so that if my team or myself had to go in and take a look at that loan, it was like income, here's this year's tax returns, last year's tax, assets, all of it was like completely dialed in. That one thing alone gave my team such a lift. And it's just simply organizing loan documents. Anyone can do it. That's a taskmaster, that can completely put that thing together. So then we started looking for anything in our system where with a checklist and proper training, a very sharp, intelligent person could do that. And here's what happened. When bringing that person in to execute, this list, more and more things were piled on, and more things were taken off of me, off of my team, so that the net effect is that it gives your people more time. And also the learning curve in this particular case was like 6 months until one of my loan officers promoted this person, and now they're a production assistant. They know a lot about loans. Why? Because they probably saw 100 to 200 loans in that 6 month time frame, simply by organizing docs, asking questions. Why do we need this? It gives someone who has a desire to get in the industry a very quick education on the basics. And so, for us, it has been a lifesaver. And so now we're piloting a program. We're trying to hire 2 or 3 of these people at the same time, who are going to execute a certain amount of tasks. And so if you said to any loan officer right now, hey, Mr. Loan Officer, if for $100 a file or $150 a file, I could give you someone who would perfectly organize all of your loan documents and upload all the loan documents to exactly match the AUS and disclose all of your loans and order the appraisal and open title and escrow and send an intro email to the client. Now, this person has no knowledge, but they can execute a checklist perfectly. How many loan officers are going to say no to that? I mean, I would take another one right now. I would do it over and over and over again. And it really has been such a capacity lift and such a blessing. And I think it's just a really, it's incumbent on us to start developing this new talent. What say you, Tim? Danny?
Well, so actually we're running a little bit tight on time. So I do want to actually share for everybody that's listening that Mark has generously offered to actually share a document that walks through the checklist that he's describing and actually gives some strategies on how to leverage this person. So if you are interested in receiving that PDF, which is just that checklist that he's describing and a brief description of the job role and what it would take to kind of ramp this person up inside of your business, please put your email into the chat so that we know that you're interested in receiving that, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of that. So Mark was extremely generous in putting a piece together that he can share. But I want to just very, very quickly, in the interest of time, Mark, just share why I think this is a great again, extension of the conversation that we've been having, in addition to being a great strategy for these times, which is you've identified the fact that your time and your team's time is extraordinarily valuable, right? And what you've done is what we've been taught to do, right? You've extended out to your larger team, which is we've been taught to look at our time and assess whether or not the time that we're spending is either economically valuable or energetically valuable. And those things that are neither economically or energetically valuable, we find ways to find support, right? We outsource those to other members who maybe find a different level of energetic support from those items, right? With the energy being superior to the economic, but for all the reasons Tim said earlier, right? Because that's what allows, like if you stay energetically high, then the money follows, right? Especially if you have the right heart and the right mindset. And so you've essentially extended that down to your team, and you said, look, what are the things that bog you down, right? What are the things that are just crushing your day? And then you find somebody and you say, hey, maybe this is, they're smart, they're a go-getter. This is not a job that they're going to have forever, right? 6 months later, they're a production assistant, but they have an opportunity to get into a phenomenal industry, which has an extraordinarily high barrier to entry. And you say, this is what paying your dues looks like. So guess what? They're super energetic about learning and growing and getting all that burden off your team's plate, right? So that they look, if you go and do 1 or 2 more deals a month, right? Even just one deal every other month, having provided this lift, the economic results more than pencil out. So I believe that, getting that document out to everybody that's interested so they can really see what that looks like and how they can then implement in their business, I think is going to be pretty phenomenal. So any parting words, Tim, that you want to leave the audience with?
First of all, thanks for dialing in, and it was my pleasure to join you guys, and thanks for having me, and thank you for all your kind words. I respect both of you immensely, so your kind words really mean a lot to me. I just want to comment on the last thing Mark said. I love it. I love everything that you said, and the only thing that I would add as a potential addition to it would be, I would envision maybe 3 months in. So like you get a commitment from, let's say that this person's position is taking a bunch of tasks off your processor's plate. I'd get a commitment from your processor going in that at roughly the 3-month mark or the 60-day mark or whatever it is, that once a week they will have a lunch call, because in today's day and age, getting together for lunch isn't so easy, but that they will carve out an hour once a week, starting in, say, on the 60th or 90th day, for a debrief. And that debrief is, and the person that just took over this position and works at it for 60 days and is collating all these documents, they're writing all their questions out over the course of the first 60 days and going to these debriefs and saying, what does this mean? What is this document for? Why do we need to ask for this? Why, when I gave you this, did you come back and ask for that? So a little less reactionary training, because they're so busy right now, right? So if they're getting peppered with questions from this new hire in the heat of the moment, they're getting taken off the freeway, and the analogy that you all know that we've taught. And just doing it in a slightly more organized way, where it's like the first 60 days, you're just doing the job and you're formulating your questions. Then there's a training period, which is you getting your questions answered, and then that person probably theoretically, as you said, 5-6 months are in, or like they're ready to be elevated potentially to the next level. So that's all I'd add.
I love it. It's great counsel, man.
Right on, guys.
Awesome. Well, Mark, do you want to have any parting words here before we shut this down?
No, I mean, I really hope that today's call helped even one of you. And Tim, I just wanted to say what a privilege it was for us to have you on, man, and just admire and acknowledge you for what you've done for both of us. You're a great dude, and it was a lot of fun, at least for me, to have you on here today and to get to share you with a lot of my friends.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
awesome. And I will just close, of course, with a thank you to both of you, Mark and Tim, for coming and sharing so generously with everyone here, right? I think it really just demonstrates that abundance that just goes to show that, you believe everyone deserves to have this information. You firmly believe that, there's no shortage of opportunity out there, and you want everybody to be as equipped and knowledgeable and optimistic as both of you are out there. So I think it's just a testament to what true leadership really looks like. Right. It looks like sharing. It looks like a firm belief that we're all stronger together. And that's why we kind of are out there, sharing this wisdom. And everyone that's watching, if you take one thing away from this call, yes, of course, we had some tactics, some scripts. That's all extremely valuable. You can implement in your business right away. But think about that idea of abundance and of gratitude, and celebrating the wins and letting those wash over you more than the losses, which, can feel a little bit overwhelming right now. Just let that, let Mark's and Tim's message here be a little bit of an inspiration to remind you of that. And, don't let your self-worth limit your net worth. And with that, thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Go get them, guys.